Hello, welcome to my channel. Today I thought I'd do something that's a little bit more complicated, white roses. And my white roses are not entirely white, as I'll show you as we go along. The first thing I'm going to do is the background, and today I'm doing something a little different to usual. I usually do a very natural greenish sort of background, but today I thought I'd be a bit more exciting and put some pink and blue together in the background. I've got my usual palette of titanium white, primary yellow, raw sienna, raw umber, French ultramarine blue, sap green, and alizarin crimson. I start off by mixing alizarin crimson with titanium white and a tiny touch of raw sienna to make it more pink. Alizarin is quite a vibrant colour and the raw sienna brings it down to a softer pink. I apply this pink to the canvas with my 3/4 inch flat brush using a crisscross stroke. It's very simple, very easy to do. I put it in one corner of the canvas, bring it down sort of a bit towards the lower end of the canvas. And I'm going to add other colors on here. And then I will use titanium white and brush it all over the canvas to mix the colors, to soften them and to make them mistier. I'm not too worried about my brush stroke here. The paint will still be wet when I add the titanium white to it, and it will smooth over with that crisscross stroke. And I'll probably give some horizontal swipes just to smooth it a little bit more. And you'll see in the end it will look quite nice. The vase is meant to be standing on a wooden table, and it's not very interesting, so which is the reason I like to get plenty of color in there, just to make it a touch more interesting. It was at this point that I suddenly realized I had not put a shadow on the base of the vase, and the vase looked like it was floating above the table. So I went and did that straight away. Thankfully, my paints were still wet enough to be able to use. To set the vase on the table, I used a line of raw umber at the base. Sit down upon the table. Looks much better, doesn't it? So you can see I now have this misty pinkish background, and I'm using a liner brush. It's also called a rigger. They used it on paintings of sailing ships to draw in the rigging. And I'm going to sketch in where the roses will be. At this point, I had not decided to use a vase at all. That only came later after I'd put my roses in, and then I thought they would look much better in a vase. And so I left the vase out of my initial planning. I'm using sap green and I'm just indicating where the blooms will be, where the stems are, keeping it very simple. I'm not going into details. I haven't even put leaves in this one. I usually do put leaves in, and I left those out till a little bit later. So now I'm putting in my base color, and this is a color that will peep through, but you won't see that much of it. It will just be the very heart of the rose, and even the heart of the rose gets covered up with stamens and their color. So don't expect to see very much of this color. I've used raw sienna, alizarin crimson, and primary yellow. I'm going to put the petals in with titanium white, and I'm still using my 3/4 inch flat brush. And I'm pulling the stroke in from the outer edge of the bloom in toward the very center. And I do sort of 2 strokes per petal. And I put some little ones in front of the big ones. And for the ones that we only see the tops of that are closest to us, I just use a sideways swipe. And for the petals underneath, I pull those in from the outer edge into the center. It's always the same for leaves and petals. Pull the stroke in from the outside edge in toward the center or the heart of the leaf or petal, or the center vein line of a leaf. And you'll find they look much more natural that way. I think I usually start petals with the most prominent ones, the ones you see the most of the petal. And the smaller ones and the sideways ones, the ones you only see the tops of, they are secondary. I think that's how I do it. I'm not going to say that's cast in stone. I'm pretty certain that's how I do it, though. I think these white roses have a little too much colour in them, and I'm letting the acrylic paint dry, and then I'll add more white to it as I go along. I think they are coming along, though. They look quite pretty. The stems look a little feeble compared to the flower heads, so I'm reinforcing those just using sap green and raw sienna, and just to make a sort of greenish brownish colour for the stems. And I'm still using my liner brush for the stems. I've changed to a smaller 1/2 inch flat for the leaves, and I put an initial blob of paint on. It's just the colour that I will pull the stroke into, just a sort of oval shaped blob. I can't think of another word to describe it at the moment, but that's the best I can do. And then I pull in the leaf toward the center of that blob from the outer edge. And I make a decision where the light is coming from and put a shadow side on using the sap green and French ultramarine blue mixed in with it to give me a shadow color. So the light is coming from the right, as you saw me indicate there, and that means all the leaves underneath and on the left of the leaf, not the entire leaf, but on the left of the leaf will be darker shadow color. Now the first layer of paint is more or less dried, so I'm going in to brighten it up with titanium white and a 3/4 inch flat, and I'm just drawing those petals in again from the outer edge in toward the center of the flower. And it sort of has taken out too much of the color. And I go back in a little later on. You'll see me go back in and add a little bit of color to the petals. I don't like to see stark white roses. I think they're quite uninteresting. But as you can see, I've got a little too much color in these. So I'll just go over them again. If you're painting in acrylics, you can do this as often as you like. You can go in, let it dry, paint some more, let it dry again. Or you can take some gesso and gesso out that whole area to give you a new fresh canvas to paint on and redo the whole thing. I've done that before with paintings as well. Usually I only take out a small part of something that I don't like very much, save myself a lot of trouble. But it doesn't really matter. You can paint over with acrylics. It can be a little confusing at times, but it's not too bad. And here I put in the white petals and then I added a touch of color, just a little touch of color to them. I'm being lazy today. I'm putting in the stamens with my brush, just dabbing it in. But I usually use a Q-tip for this purpose. I think it gives me a neater, rounder, sort of dotty look. And I like that a little bit better. But this isn't too bad, so I forgive myself. Now I'm looking at this again. I see I've given myself 4 leaves in a square, which is a little distracting. I like to work in odd numbers. My teacher told me that it's more charming to the eye, and I believe her. And here I've got 4 green leaves. So there's nothing to be done about it now. I could take them out with a little gesso or paint over them with a background color. I could do that, but I'm not going to. I'm just going to leave it. And if you do it, try and remember to stick to odd numbers. Here's where I decide to paint the vase, and there will be a reflection on the table beneath it too. And the light goes in very brightly on one side, goes through the water and the leaves, and is a little duller on the opposite side. So I mix in a little green with the titanium white on the opposite side to where the light strikes the vase. I think it's called reflective, but anyway, that's how I do it. I usually, you can hear my dogs barking there. I usually add this little touch of a reflected window because I think it makes the glass look glassier. And you have to see everything through the vase for the glass to look glassy. So I like my vase when I finished it. So I hope you like it too. I add just a touch of colour, not a lot, just a little pink, a little yellow, just to give a hint of colour to the flowers. Leaves and stems on roses are quite interesting. They sometimes have patches of pink on them, or thorns will be red, and they make the painting that touch more interesting. And I don't paint very detailed things. I only put a couple of lines in for the veins on a leaf, or a little patch of pink color, and I can't say more than that, really. I try to get something interesting in every quarter of my painting. When you're painting in acrylics, if you mess up, you can just go over the paint with another layer, and it really doesn't make that much difference. Don't be afraid to do that. And that's what I'm doing here. I feel I put in a little too much extra color, and I just can't get the balance right. So I'm painting over white over the pinks and the yellows that I put in. I think the roses look quite nice now, and I'm hoping that's it. Well, I've gone on to the vase anyway, so we'll say that's it. I'm adding a little colour to the glass. It will reflect anything that's in the vase. If you've got pink flowers in the vase, you'll see pink in the glass, or you should put pink in the glass because it will be reflected in the glass in real life. And don't forget that the side where the light hits will always be brighter than the opposite side, where the light has to go through the water, has to go through the leaf, the greenery, the stalks, everything that makes the light dimmer on the opposite side. But it still is there. Well, I hope you enjoyed this painting of white roses, and I hope you got something from it. And I might do red roses. They are difficult to paint too. They've got their own problems. We'll sort that out later. But thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe. And thank you to everyone who's already done that. That's been so helpful. It's free to do and doesn't cost you anything. And it helps me enormously because it gets my channel seen and it gets my channel promoted by the algorithm. So I love it when you do that. And thank you very much to all who have. And I'll see you next time. Bye for now.